What's up, card fighters? Today I'm going to be showing you a deck profile deck of Zorga. So this is updated with the new support because it finally came in for us. So I'm going to start with our white deck. Our white deck is a little bit different. I did change it up from the first set, but I just never bothered to make a video because if I made a video every time I change my deck, it will be like once every week because I always change my deck around just to see how things works until a tournament comes and I change it how I like it. So starting with our starter is what every other starter would probably play or do. If you want another starter you can, just make sure it's a starter cowl flag and make sure your white deck sleeves are different sleeves to your main deck. So let's start with the wide of the grade 1. Pretty much the same as the same grade 1. Soul Blast, draw 2, discard a order card. Make sure it's not a blitz order. It has to be a normal order. So if you don't have any order cards in your hand from the start of turn, I usually discard 5 and then redraw 5. So this is a grade 2 I'm running. The reason why I'm running this, because I used to run 4 of her, or I think 3 of her, then I changed it up to 4, because I couldn't see her. And when I had 4 of her, I would see her at the last, like, the very end of the game. And it wouldn't matter because I was going to be losing anyway, so I put her in the wide deck just to soul blast her out and then use Zorga's skill just to bring back her behind the rear guard because usually I alchemagic, and then I can use her skill to mill 3 and then retire her, so next time I use alchemagic, then I don't need a soul blast. Or sometimes I just leave her in the drop until my next turn and then use Zorga's skill to bring back her out. That way I have more control of milling things out and not worrying about having to soul blast with alchemagic. And next is Zorga as our white deck. I'll get on and explain more about how I use this deck a bit later on after this video. So after this, I won 3 Zorgas. There we go. So it's just on the V, that's where I have to make my point. So I won 3 Zorgas because he's our leader. It's pretty much explainable. 1 dragon because the dragon's too great. It's not something I go after anymore. In the first set I did because it was really good. I could hit really good numbers, magic numbers too. 2 of the sharks. This shark is really good. It gains 5k. I think you have to soul blast when this card attack and you did not alchemagic this turn. So you still can use an order, you just don't like alchemagic. Alchemagic is when you use 2 order cards. 1 from the drop and 1 from your hand. So if you just use 1, then you still can use its skill because it's alchemagic. Just remember, if you use 1, this thing won't go off because it's alchemagic. So you still have to pay the cost when you use alchemagic. I mean, when you don't use alchemagic. So if you just use 1. I wanted 4 of this guy, but I don't have 4. Is very important in the deck. Let me just change this to autofocus. There we go. So yeah, this guy is very important in the deck. It's really good. When place, I think is, yeah, when place, is it? When placed on rear guard, the next time you would have to use alchemagic with a counterblast, reduce it by 1. So if it's counterblast 2, then it's just 1 counterblast. It's not completely getting rid of all the counterblasts. So yeah, I wanted 4, but since I don't have 4, I'm just wanting these 3, just for fillers. Now I'm wanting 3 of the Mantis. I still reckon the Mantis is really good. Gaining an extra 5k by when placed. I can use Zorga's skill to bring him back. I can use the Monster Reborn to bring it back. Pretty much anything. I wanted 1 of her. I was thinking of bringing her up by 2 just in case she hits my damage zone, but I just don't know really. So I'm just leaving it at 1 for now, but maybe hitting it with 2. But avoid the mill when I do, it's just, she usually hits my drop pretty good. Now I'm running 4 PGs. If you don't have this PG, then use the trial deck PG. This PG is just the better version. I'm running 3 of this order. I don't have 3 as you can tell, but I'm just using these 2 for backup. But this order is really good, and I suggest you should run it at 3, possibly 4, but I think 3 is a good fit for me in my play style. 1 in 3 of the order from the first set. It's still really good. Given a 10k column to my entire front row, well, 10 to this. Usually I give it 10 to my front row. It's very rare. Well, no, actually, sometimes I actually do give it to one of my back rows. I don't usually give it to my Vanguard, but sometimes I do. Most of the times I give it to my Vanguard, just depending on how the field looks like and the damage looks like for my opponent. So then I'm on 1 of this. It's a great card, but it's best if it's in the drop and then you use it. So if you can discard it and you already have an order card, then do that. 2 of our new order cards from the newer set again. This order card is really good. If we have, since we do a lot of milling with this card, as you can tell, I don't want any of this. I replace it with other cards. So yeah, it's really good with that card because you do a lot of dropping, and if you have 15 or more cards in the drop, it gains a crit. And it gains 5k for each. Is it 5k? Yeah, it's 5k. 5k for each card in the drop. And then 1 Monster Reborn because, yeah, it's Monster Reborn. So I do have some cards with Soul Blast, and the card you want to Soul Blast is obviously this unit. She's the main card you want to Soul Blast, and then start doing it. So your wide deck does start at grade 2, but it doesn't really matter with me. I went in 2 of the Blitz order, just to put cards back in my hand. Sometimes I use Zorga skill to bring back a PG and call in the back row. Then I use this to bring the PG back. Or sometimes I use Zorga skill to bring back Zorga, and then use that to put it back, and then wide on top. Persona wide. So now I'm running 1 order card. I mean not order card, sorry. 1 Overtrigger. This Overtrigger is a great card. It lets you draw, just pretty much rainbow trigger. Just remember, it has, what do you call it? It's when you equal or more damage. Yeah, it's an rider, so just remember that for any new players that's coming in to Zorga and don't know about the correction. 3 of the fronts, with the new fronts against an extra 5k shield if we are to grade 3. No, if our opponent's at a grade 3 or greater. It's a really good card. You don't really need to draw triggers in this deck, so I replace them with 3 fronts. But you do want to see crits. Crits are more important than fronts right now, so I only want 3. You can one another front, just get rid of a crit, but right now, to me, crits are more important. So speaking about crits, I obviously run 8 crits. Because crits are great, especially with Zorga. Zorga likes to push a lot of pressure and be aggressive pretty much straight away. And 4 heals. Because heals is great, you like to heal. So now to explain why I run this as my grade 2. Because obviously this lineup is usual. So when you ride to grade 2, that's going to be Soul Blast because of his skill. When you do her on grade 2, none of her effects work. So your grade 2 is really slow because you won't bring back anything, but usually my grade 2 is pretty slow anyway. Usually I use my rear guard's ability to do stuff. So yeah, when you ride her, nothing works until you ride and then use a card, an order card that allows you to Soul Blast. I figured out, ever since I put her in the wide deck, my tempo as soon as I go to grade 3, it's a lot better than when I didn't have her in my wide deck. So that's why I put her in my wide deck. You don't have to, you can actually run the wide deck of the grade 2 and then have 4 of her in your deck. But to me, I just like her in my wide deck. She's really important. Well, I hope that explains a little bit. If you don't fully understand, just put in the comments and I'll show you in a game what I mean, and the camera will be probably behind my back so I can explain it to you what I mean. And yeah, hope you liked the video. Laters.